Alright, hello and welcome back to Tom Q's Tech Tips. Today we're talking about my 2025 wish list for the Blackmagic Camera App. And our focus is going to be on live production. So if you've got a different use for the Blackmagic Camera App, you're dismissed. This video is for those of you that don't have a large budget for cameras. In my case, I've been recording a conference once a year, and so I've splurged on the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, but I really don't want to put a lot of money into cameras that I'm only really going to use once a year. So hence the live production focus of this wish list. So we're going to start with my wish list from 2024. Which I laid out in my video called Why I'm Choosing FiLMiC Pro for Live Production Despite the Nucleus Nano 2, which had just started working with the Blackmagic Camera App 1 month earlier than this video. So I made the video in January of 2024. Everything I had about it actually remained valid, a valid complaint, if you will, until August of 2024. So my number one objection was that while Blackmagic has clean HDMI out, if you happen to touch the settings or chat, the clean feed would go black. And that's just too much of a risk. So this was actually fixed in 2.1 of the Blackmagic Camera App, which actually just came out about a month and a half ago in late October of 2024. So that has gotten my wheels turning again as a possibility of using the Blackmagic Camera App as opposed to FiLMiC. My number two request in that video was the remote control of exposure, focus, zoom, etc. And the Nucleus Nano 2 thing had actually got me to thinking that the Blackmagic app might be a possibility, because the Nucleus Nano has the capability of doing focus, zoom, and exposure, or iris, as it says on the Nucleus Nano 2. Blackmagic only supports 2 of those 3 features, so you can focus and zoom very nicely, I might add. I mean, the control with that little device is just super smooth. And though I sent this one back, it makes me want it again. But anyway, that was my my plus for FiLMiC, because FiLMiC has a remote control option for controlling the remote cameras using an iOS device. But I was proposing a little device like this that would let you hook up to 4 cameras and then control focus, white balance, zoom, shutter, ISO. It would let you monitor your audio levels. It would let you see if you're recording. It would let you know which camera you're adjusting, where you are in the recording, etc. So fortunately, Blackmagic did not listen to me. They actually looked at, I don't know what they were considering, but this was fixed in August of 2024 with an iPad app. So and even, you know, with FiLMiC, you could only control one camera per the app. So you could disengage and engage, but anyway, this app lets you control up to 4 cameras and do all the things that I wanted to do with that little device. Plus, you can monitor the video. So anyway, once you've turned on this feature in settings, which I'll leave to other videos that are already out there, this little gadget will show up in the upper left. And I'm going to go ahead and tap that. And I've already got 3 additional iOS devices that are currently running Blackmagic right now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn them on, and once you do that, you start seeing some feeds here. I'm going to go ahead and turn on link controls, tap away, and once you've got more than one, you'll have this little control here. And there are my three cameras. And I've got two that are practically the same view, which I'm going to discuss in a minute why I'm doing that. But this is just I'm very grateful to have this, and so thank you Blackmagic for that. And it's really rekindled my interest in using Blackmagic, the Blackmagic Camera App, for live production. So let's move on to number 3. My third and final request from 2024 had something to do with FiLMiC supporting older devices. And I really don't think it's within the realm of possibilities to have Blackmagic go back and support those older OSs. Those are going to be iPhones that don't have as nice of cameras. And so I think we should just plow ahead. But FiLMiC, if you do have older devices and that's all you have, this would be the final remaining reason to use FiLMiC Pro over the Blackmagic Camera App. And I do have one thing that's going to be number 4 on my 2025 list that relates to this, but it's not tops on my new list. So let's move away from 2024 and jump into 2025. And here's my number 1 request for Blackmagic Camera App in 2025, and that is the ability to remotely pan and tilt. Now, it already does support this to a certain extent in that it supports Apple's dock kit technology. So I'm going to pull up in just a moment the 2 cameras that have almost the exact same view and compare dock kit with some other artificial intelligence for controlling a camera. And so what I'm going to be asking for is the ability to disengage dock kit's AI and manually control it. And so let's move on into that. And I'm going to switch views here to a view where I've got the 2 cameras. On the right is being controlled with the iPhone 11 that's upside down. It has the 2 cameras on it. It's being controlled with the Hohem iSteady MT2 stabilizer with an AI module, AI vision sensor. And on the left, I have the Belkin it's called the Belkin Stage Auto Tracking Stand Pro with dock kit. So super long name. The price on this, I think, has just dropped to $99. So it perked up my interest in it again and in looking at this technology. So so far Blackmagic's implementation of dock kit is just to let dock kit take complete control over everything with the defaults. So here's my objection to it. And actually I'm going to go ahead and engage the artificial AI. I can actually do some controls of the Hohem with some gestures. So I can turn on the AI tracking or turn it off with a couple of gestures. Let's go ahead and turn it on. And there is no such thing. I can reach up and touch the Belkin device and make it stop tracking. But if I can't do that remotely. So anyway, one thing in this current scenario that I'm not particularly liking about the dock kit AI tracking is that when I turn my head, it automatically assumes that the camera ought to be looking at what I'm looking at. If I turn my head this way, it's going to put me off to the side and let you see what I'm looking at. So I don't necessarily, if I'm doing a conference, I don't necessarily want the camera moving just with the tilt of the head of the speaker. So the speaker's changing his focus, but I don't necessarily want the focus of the camera to go away from the speaker. So my understanding from watching some Apple videos on Docket from the Worldwide Developer Conferences is that the developer of an app can choose what the cameras are going to be focusing on. So I think it can do something similar to the HOHIM, to where it can keep the person who is the speaker in the middle of the camera. And the Docket will do that to a certain extent if you start moving out of frame, but it's not as sensitive as the HOHIM, and it keeps doing that tilt thing. So it's kind of funny, but what I'm asking for is a disengaging of the AI, which I'm going to do that with the HOHIM right now. And I'm going to bring up a slightly different view where you can see this app that HOHIM provides called, I think it's called the HOHIM Joy app. And one of the things inside of it is this little thing called the joystick control. I made a video. There's actually 3 or 4 ways that you can control the AI, the panning and the tilting. So I've made a separate video on that. But this is the one where that I think I can visualize Blackmagic implementing something like this. So, but we're going to talk about another way that I think will even be better. So, but if something like this could come up on the screen when you tap a camera, and then you just take your hand and move the little circle, and when you do that, the gimbal will move with you. So if I want to go up, I just move it up. If I want to go down, I just move it down. And you can adjust the speed of this not only by moving it a little bit farther to the edge, but there's actually some settings inside there that will let you control how fast that can go. So if I wanted to speed that up, I can, somewhere in here, joystick, left, right, joystick speed, I could take that up to high, and then when I go left or right, it's going to move really fast. So anyway, that is something that can happen. And so the only problem with this, like the Nucleus Nano 2, you would need one of these per iOS device. And what I'm envisioning is that with the Blackmagic, let's switch back to that view. With the Blackmagic app, when you click on the different cameras, you would have a little thing that pops out. If you were in pan tilt mode, it would be controlling the camera that's in view. So anyway, and we're going to take another look at this once I can disengage from my iPhone 12 Pro Max from Blackmagic and go over to another app. So anyway, let's move on to my next request, and that is the smoother, slower zoom options, similar to what Blackmagic has already implemented with rack focus from all the way back to version 1.3. So we're going to pull up my iPad, and I'm going to switch over to zooming. And depending on which, I can control this. And I do kind of wish that when I switch to a certain tool, that the controls with the tool would stay out if I switch to another one. So right now I'm having to switch to a camera. If I pick the wrong one, then I need to go over and tap the zoom tool again. But let's actually jump up to this one right here. Come over and tap zoom. I do have some automatic places that I can zoom into, but it's going to jump really fast. I have no control over the speed there. And I also don't have control over any other options besides 2, 4, and 8, unless I want to manually reach up and do this. And the smoothness of that and the slowness is going to depend on my hand here. So So anyway, let's switch on over to rack focus, and I just want to show you that something they've implemented there that really has me thinking about bringing this into zoom. So I've got my, speaking of zoom, I've got my Zoom H6 here, and with rack focus, with the focus thing selected and rack focus selected, I can come over here and tap. Let's go ahead and double tap on it and see if I get what I'm looking for. So I've got this selected. I'm going to go ahead and tap on this. There we go. And I'm going to tap the little number 1 here. So I've set a focus point on the Zoom H6. Now I'm going to just move over slightly and set my focus point way back here with my Apple Pencil and my accessories back here, and we'll tap the number 2. And I don't really have a number 3 focus point, but I'm going to select my curtains in the background up here and grab number 3 as well. So we're gonna use that not in this little segment, but in one to come. So now not only can I jump to any one of these 3 points, but I can also set the speed with how fast this works. So if I wanted this to take a second to do that, then I can touch that and set that. So that's what I'm looking for in Zoom, so that once I tap the points, and I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. So I'm moving from the 1 focus point to the number 2 focus point very smoothly and at the exact rate that I want it to go. So, all right, to get back to my controls, I actually have to tap this, and we'll go back to our 3 things there. So that is what I'm thinking with the smoother, slower zoom options. So number 3 is to let the ATEM software control trigger recording on the iPhones, or vice versa. So I've got a little simulation here. So in the ATEM software control, which if you have an ATEM, you're familiar with it, there's a little section here where you can control some things. Brings up a series of panels, and one of them, which used to say remote and now says camera control, so this kind of fits as well. But once you're in there, I'm envisioning an option that will let the software control talk to the iPad that's controlling the different cameras. And once you connect, then it might take a few seconds to actually to talk to the iPad. But once it connects, then when you come over to something like the output section, switch to that panel, you get the section where you can start recording to your ATEM, the ISO feeds. If you have Blackmagic cameras, then when you press record, it can trigger the recording inside those cameras as well. So since this is effectively a Blackmagic camera, I'm thinking that this record button could talk to the iPad, which is controlling all of the cameras that are hooked up to it. And similarly, if you were tapping the camera's record that triggers all of these cameras, if you press the iPad's recording thing, let's go ahead and click that, you would also be starting all the other inputs from that are plugged up to your ATEM. So anyway, that's my number 3 request from Blackmagic in 2025. So back to manual controls on the panning and the tilting. Apple has already implemented a thing. I'm going to go ahead and bring this other view in. There's my Apple Watch. And when I go into this Apple app, it's going to kick me out of Blackmagic. So I'm going to go ahead and tap that. And I don't know if you can see this, it says drag to pan on the Apple Watch. So right now it's actually still has engaged the Apple Intelligence. So, but when I press these three dots here, it brings up an option to disengage that. And this, now when I put my finger on the screen, I can actually pan and tilt the camera that's hooked up to that Belkin dock kit stand. So I'm thinking that this could be the solution to letting the Blackmagic Camera App, when I switch back to that, let's go back to that view here. And I lost control of that camera, so we're back down to 2. Anyway, if we were in, let's say there was a pan and tilt tool over here, once we select a camera, then maybe if I move my finger across up or down, then it would control that dock kit technology. So anyway, that's just another thought there. All right, let's move on to my last 4 requests. So those are my top 3: remote panning and tilting, smoother, slower zoom options, and the ATEM software control trigger. So number 4 kind of harkens back to the FiLMiC advantage for older devices. And when I was making that video on the Nucleus Nano 2 and I pressed record, it was my old iPhone 12 Pro Max. It just looked noticeably jittery with the 4K recording. So FiLMiC didn't have that issue because it had an option of doing 2K recording. So I have a little bit better record inside the camera than what's inside the ATEM, but maintaining a decent quality. So anyway, 4K, 2K recording as an option. I don't think that would be a difficult one to throw in there between the 1080p and the 4K. Number 5 is dual camera recording. So as far as I know right now, there is only one app in the world that can give you these 2 things together, and that the 2 things are clean HDMI out and dual camera recording. So there are some apps out there that do the dual camera recording, but they don't give you clean HDMI out, so you can't really use it in live production. But Movie Pro, which has been around for quite a few years now, and I've actually used it in conferences, it also has remote control of one device. It actually, from like an iPad to an iPhone, but it also has the ability to dual camera record. So, which has come in handy sometimes when I've only got one camera. Maybe I've got one focused at a speaker, but if I'm looking at it, it's also focused at me. So like the iPad over here, that it's got a camera that's looking right at me. So if I could be recording on that, that would be nice. Or if I've got a speaker that's moving around and I can't keep up with the panning and the tilting, I could have the normal record and the wide angle record, and in post-production I could switch to the wide angle if I needed to. So anyway, that's handy. I don't necessarily need to be seeing what's on both. I don't need the ATEM to be recording both things, but it'd be nice to have it inside the iPhone camera. So number 6, and I don't necessarily need this one anymore, but when Blackmagic came out with version 2 back in August, I did not have an iPad to experiment with. So, but I did have an Apple Silicon Mac. So during this production, I've been using Mix Effect, which was written for iOS, but the developer checked a little box. I don't know how complicated it was, but checked a little box that made this available on the Silicon Macs. Apple Silicon Macs, and it works great. So anyway, I don't need it anymore because I've got the M2 iPad Air, but I'm just not sure why it can't just be checked. It seems like it would work well. So anyway, there might be a reason, but I don't know what it is. And then finally, the Apple Watch monitoring, which we kind of demonstrated already. That has come in handy for me before, where if I'm moving around, I can look at my watch and see what's in frame. So anyway, that's not tops on my list, but it is kind of cool and wouldn't mind seeing it. So that's my top 7 things that I want to see in the Blackmagic Camera app for live production in 2025. So thanks for tuning in. I'm going to take a few more minutes to talk about a few little bugs that I ran into. If you're not Blackmagic, you may not care about that. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. So let's go ahead and switch back over to my iPad. All right, so I'm gonna bring the iPad back over. You know what? I think I'm also gonna go over to the ATEM software control and make the program be my main thing again. We'll make put the preview right here. All right, so, and I think I'm gonna have to quit the Blackmagic app here. Let's actually go ahead and turn all the things off. Boop, boop, boop. All right, and that might be all I need to do. All right, so we're going back into Blackmagic. So we're switching back over to my Blackmagic app running on the iPad, and right now I have no cameras connected. And I'm using the front-facing camera on the iPad, which is focused on me. So when I go into the camera control, by default, that camera is going to be turned off. So I'm not sure why that is, to be honest. So I'm going to go ahead and engage my extra cameras and tap away. And then when I go back into it, so actually let's switch to the 3 or 4 up here. I'm going to go back into the controller selecting, and the front-facing camera that's now deactivated but was upright, when I go ahead and tap it again, it is now upside down. And I'm not sure why that is, if it needs to be a thing. I can sort of fix it by going into settings. I'll show you that in a second. But right now, even though it's showing it to me upside down, it's recording right side up. If I go into the settings and switch over to camera and turn on flip image for SLR lens, it will fix it for this view, but now it's recording upside down. So that's just a little thing. So another thing that I'd like to see, I wouldn't say this is a bug, but it kind of is, because if I'm going between my different devices and I want to change lenses, so when I go up to the lens changing feature in the upper left, the tools for changing the lenses are on the far right. So if I tap that and I was already on the wrong camera, it's going to make those controls are going to go away until I come back to the far upper left and bring that out again. So I'm imagining 2 things here. One is, why not have these controls below these 2 controls right here so that they're popping out right below this tool, instead of me having to move my hand all the way across the screen over into here. or just leave them out until I don't know, but I really would like to have them down here. So, so then my final thing is, I'm just gonna mention this really quickly, and this has to do with the rack focus. So, and I already have that set up over here. So let's just pull that back out. And we will flip me around. Speaking of flipping around, I have to go to lens, come way over here since I'm using a trackpad, and we're gonna flip that. I'm on the right, on the right one, be this one. So now I have to go back up and tap that again. I'm gonna go to the rear camera, and then we're heading over to the rack focus. So, and we'll double tap that so we can see this. So I should, let's see, do I still have my 3 points? I think I do. So if I was working on this iPad itself and I wanted to have it go from point 1 to 2 to 3 with the play button, and then go back to 2 and back to 1, this would be the tool that I select. This would be the tool that I would select if I want to go 1, 2, 3, back to 1. 1, 2, 3, back to 1. This little glitch right here is where when I have this selected and I click play, it's still doing it. There's 1, 2, 3. It should go back to 2, but it doesn't. It goes back to 1 the way this tool does. So anyway, super tiny little glitch. Let's get out of that, and we'll go back to my other view here so I can say thank you for tuning in to Tom Q's Tech Tips. Really love the app, and but I'm hoping for the stars here. So thank you so much. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.